So once you're done with that, you just get a time his favour.
Good afternoon and welcome to Solent Sports News. I'm Matt Ogley with your headlines at 4 o'clock. The Premier League returns from the international break tomorrow and Southampton are visiting Stamford Bridge to take on Chelsea. Joining us on the other end of the line is the Athletic's Dan Sheldon. Afternoon Dan, can Saints possibly replicate last year's performance at Stamford Bridge? And just tell us more about the signing of Theo Walcott and what you think he can bring to the club at this stage in his career.
Afternoon, Matt. Can they replicate last season's result? Well, yeah, I'd say they possibly can. Will they replicate last season's result? Possibly not. You know, Chelsea have spent an awful lot of money this summer. They've obviously strengthened their team in all the attacking areas as well. So I think it's going to be, a much more difficult challenge, which is something that Ralph Hasenhüttl, Southampton boss, alluded to in his press conference yesterday when he spoke to the media before the game. But Saints, they've won their last 2 games in the league. They've not conceded a goal in those fixtures either. Chelsea, okay, they've had some good results, but they have looked a bit shaky at the back. So I'm sure Danny Ings will be sort of fancying his chances, and I don't think Thiago Silva is available to play, although I think Chilwell is likely to come back into the Chelsea team. So on that front, I think, like I said, it's going to be a very difficult place to go and try and beat Chelsea, especially with the players they've signed. But, Southampton are in a good vein of form. They obviously went there last year and did it and managed to keep a clean sheet in doing so. So, it's up in the air. I don't think they will, but, I don't want to say they can't either. On Theo Walcott, yeah, so, it sounds as if he's going to be starting, sort of his second debut as such. Stuart Armstrong's he obviously had coronavirus and had to self-isolate until today, so he can only start training today, so that's just not enough time to get ready for the game. Nathan Redmond's fit, and Moussa Djenepo's injured. Aside from that, they don't really have anyone else that can play alongside Redmond, so it sounds as though Theo Walcott will start tomorrow's game. Is he a good signing? Well, I think, from speaking to people close to Theo and speaking to people close to the club, I think it's a sort of win-win situation all round. They're getting a player with a lot of experience. He'll come in and he'll be able to do a job straight away, and they're not having to pay an awful lot of money to do that. If you want to sort of play with that experience and you're going to buy them, it's going to cost a fair bit of money, which is something Southampton don't really have. So, the fact Everton are covering more than half of his wages as well. It just made perfect sense for Southampton to go after Theo, and from everything I'm told, Theo was almost driving the move to come back to Southampton. He made it fairly clear to Everton early on that, Southampton are the club I want to go to, so that's how they managed to get a fairly good deal on it.
But even with like a fully fit Southampton squad, does he get into that starting 11?
I don't think he will. I don't think, he hasn't been signed as someone that's going to start every single game. I think this weekend is unique in the sense that, there's been obviously an international break and Southampton have got a few injuries in the area he's going to play. When he was signed, it was sort of explained to me by a few people that would know what's going on a bit more than I would, that, that Southampton sort of view him as someone that can come on in the last 25, 30 minutes, to help close out a game and just add that bit of experience. But, he's got a chance now if he does start on Saturday that, he could play well, and there's no reason why he can't, start every single week. If he starts scoring goals or creating goals, Ralph isn't just going to take him out of the team because he's 31 years old. Was he brought in to start? No. He's got a chance now where he is starting, so it's really up to him. Although speaking to someone close to Theo yesterday, I don't think he's played a proper game of competitive football, minus a brief cameo in the Carabao Cup a couple of weeks ago. So I think he may struggle after 30 minutes tomorrow, but it'll all be good for him.
Dan, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Take care.
Take care now. Bye-bye. And here with the rest of the Premier League previews is our reporter Jack Finney.
Everton come into the weekend top of the Premier League table and take on local rivals Liverpool at Goodison Park in Saturday afternoon early kick-off. The visitors will be looking to put a 7-2 defeat against Aston Villa before the international break firmly behind them with a victory in the Merseyside derby. It'll be exactly 10 years to the day come kick-off since the Toffees last beat their rivals at Goodison Park. Mikel Arteta takes his Arsenal side to the Etihad to take on Manchester City. New signing Thomas Partey has integrated well into the squad and could make his debut against Guardiola's side. The Arsenal boss has been pleased with the reaction to the Ghanaian's arrival.
Yeah, I've seen the buzz around the place. I think the fans are really happy. I've seen some really positive reactions after we brought him. The same with the team, the same with the squad and the staff. I think it's a player that we have the radar on for a long time, and we have managed to bring him in, and I think it's going to be a really important addition to the team.
City find themselves 14th in the Premier League table and 8 points off table-topping Everton. Manchester United head to St James's Park in the late kick-off, looking to dust themselves down following their 6-1 defeat to Tottenham before the international break. Manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has called on his players to unite and produce a positive performance.
It's one of those things that you have to get over it as soon as you can and move on. We know any little chance from outside, you want to create a division. I think Bruno spoke really well the other day about we are united, we have to stay together.
The Magpies have lost just one of their opening 4 league's fixtures.
The campaign to get fans back into stadiums at the elite level has continued this week. Our reporter Jack Sale has been looking at some of the differing views of the parties involved.
Football fans still haven't returned to stadiums in National League North and South, going up the pyramid due to the coronavirus. The longer this goes on, the harder it is for clubs to remain stable, with many in the lower leagues and EFL reliant on the money ticket sales bring. Test events were scheduled for the start of October, but the government cancelled them a few days before they were due to take place. Oxford United were due to host Crewe in front of 1,000 fans. Their managing director, Neil McWilliams, told us just how much effort was put in to getting it set up before the plug was pulled.
What we had to do is we had to produce a really detailed test event plan that had to be approved by the safety authorities and by what they call the stadium's safety advisory group. It was a large document, but it was a significant amount of time and cost.
Fans are also desperate for a swift return, if it can be done safely. Many have signed a petition which has registered over 100,000 signatures, to allow fans back into stadiums. The petition will now be discussed in Parliament on November the 9th.
My name is Andy. I am a Portsmouth fan and I help host I co-host the PO Forecast. As a 6-foot bloke, there's not many places that I can shout socially acceptably these days, and football's quite a good out for that, whether it's shouting for good or bad reasons. So definitely miss that environment. And yeah, that's sort of like a camaraderie of having 17,000 people in the same space who all want the same thing.
Oliver Dowden, Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, has explained this week the reasons why now is not the time for fans to return to football grounds.
I can assure I'm working intensively to see when we can do this as soon as it is safe to do so once we get the disease under control. But just at this moment, against a backdrop of rapidly rising infections, remember it's not just in the stadium, it's a journey to and from. We didn't feel now was the appropriate time.
So it remains to be seen when fans will return to stadiums, but many will be hoping it is sooner rather than later.
Yeah, you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven for too long, for too long.
One club that has felt the effects of having no fans is Hamble. The Wessex League Premier side had their season curtailed last time out and have been restricted to just 300 spectators since the season's restart. Jay McDade reports.
The sound of a goal, something that hasn't been heard for 7 months at Hamble Football Club. When the coronavirus forced the football season to be abandoned, Monks became one of the many clubs at their level to take a hit from the pandemic. Finances and player development were halted, temporarily stalling what was looking to be a promising project starting to take shape at the Abbey. Chairman Steve Harris spoke to us about how missing out on games last season already means the club are playing catch up financially.
We have our regular match days where we would have an income of between £200 and £400 per game. We've lost out on 12 of those, so that's another £2,000 to £2,500 the club have lost in revenue.
The pandemic has also had its effects on businesses around the community, some of whom have been financially beneficial to the club, and Steve now fears that they could lose out on donations to help keep the side afloat.
The big money men within clubs who help support them don't have that financial backing themselves anymore. Their companies have taken a hit, so they don't have the thousands of pounds to plough back into the grassroots football.
But it's not just off the pitch that coronavirus may have had an impact. Many youngsters have started looking for jobs to help support their families, and assistant manager Rory Anderson believes this could have a knock-on effect for their youth prospects.
Unless you're going to be at a level where you can potentially earn enough money to live off from football alone, if you can't, then you need a job, and again, like with anyone else, that's going to affect your performance in ways where you can't prepare totally for a game.
Whilst concerned, he does understand the need to be financially capable and suggests those who are looking for a career in football make a compromise.
So maybe just having a part-time job while they try and push as hard as they can to make a full-time career out of football would be a good idea, but it's not always the case for some. Sometimes they need to get thrust straight into like a full-time role, so a difficult one to deal with.
Like many of us, Hamble FC will have to wait and find out the impact of the virus both financially and on the field. Jay McDade, Solent Sports News at Hamble.
An NHS survey reported approximately only 1 in 8 adults with a mental health problem are currently getting any kind of treatment. However, as the conversation about mental health has begun, sport is being seen as an avenue to help people with mental illnesses. Sam Raymond visited Solent tennis team to find out more.
Nadal is the US Open champion.
Sport has been seen as a great way to create social groups and provide an opportunity to cope with stressful situations. We've come to Wide Lane tennis courts to find out how important sport is to dealing with mental health. An NHS survey reported approximately only 1 in 8 adults with a mental health problem are currently getting any treatment.
Go, concentrate!
Tennis coach and former South African Davis Cup player Sean de Jong said sport is a great way of getting people outside.
Getting outside, obviously meeting people, getting some fresh air through your lungs and brain is extremely important. Being locked down, being by yourself, obviously, it's just, becomes a bit depressive. It's very lonely and lonesome, so being outside for sport purposes and just meeting people and obviously having that human interaction is extremely important. It just kind of helps the brain function normally.
A study in Canada showed that students who play team sports have less stress and better mental health. Solent tennis player Ash Ayrton said he can notice a difference between himself and his friends that don't play sport.
Since you come out of school and you stop doing sports, it definitely affects people in different ways, and I can definitely sense that the people who go to the gym and do sports, they seem a lot more eager for life. They are just sort of more happy in general, whereas the people who don't are sort of more grumpy. They don't really want to do stuff as much. My associates around me, I definitely feel like it's definitely a change from me to them.
Sport has also been seen as an factor in raising self-esteem, with multiple studies stating that exercise is an important antidepressant. A charity which uses sport to help those with mental illness is Sport in Mind. The organisation has helped with the recovery of over 12,500 people. Laura Brooks, who works for Sport in Mind, said she has seen firsthand people's confidence and self-esteem rise through sport.
We've had someone that's come along as a participant who's been quite unwell and who has slowly kind of built relationships with people and confident in their ability and what they do, and then have become volunteers for us. And that person, through their support and building even more confidence as a volunteer, was actually someone that we were able to pay to become a coach and actually started delivering sessions for us themselves.
Many people across the country will be struggling with their mental health. With lockdown meaning separation.
With the country under a lockdown and people having to self-isolate, the conversation about mental well-being has become more important than ever.
That's it, 5.
Solent tennis player Pat Hardy said the sport has become more important than ever due to the effects of COVID-19.
I didn't play tennis for best part of 18 months. I was in my second, third years at university, just didn't do it. And since the lockdown, I'm out playing again, because you do realise you do sometimes take it for granted, especially watching sport as well. I mean, so it's certainly a big difference. And the lockdown, it does make you realise that actually some things were taken for granted.
With an unknown future ahead due to the coronavirus pandemic, the role sport plays in mental health and well-being may become more important than ever. Sam Raymond, Solent Sport News.
And finally, county cricket will see its biggest revamp in a generation. The county championship will be split into 3 groups of 6 next summer, as opposed to the traditional 2-league system. The Bob Willis Trophy, which was held to ensure county cricket was played this summer, will also be contested between the best 2 teams at the end of the season. Essex will be aiming to retain both crowns. That's all from us for this afternoon. You can stay up to date on our website solentjournalism.co.uk. Bye-bye for now.